Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Awakened. It's been a fun week. It's been a good holiday. I hope everybody's had a happy new year. Welcome to 2022. Like I said, we'd be back, and we've got some interesting topics to walk through today. So before we get into all that, make sure you guys are following us everywhere. We just started a Getter. We didn't really even know what Getter was until we looked into it, and it's so far been pretty cool. So make sure you're following us there. Obviously, we're still on Facebook for now. YouTube, Rumble, make sure you go to aga.network, and all our videos and content will always live there safely. So I'm Josh, back with Rob, back with Nate, and you guys ready to rock and roll into 2022?
Let's do it.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, Rob, why don't you let everybody know how to become an insider real quick, and then we'll do a rundown of the show.
So you can text AGA, the three letters, AGA, to 330-619-4497. That's 330-619-4497. You do that, you become an insider. We've got lots of great things going on with our insiders, and it'll ask you a couple questions on being a part of what we're doing. And we will be sending out this year. We'll be sending out updates via text, so you can know when we've got something new that's about ready to drop. And if we were doing that today on what we're about to talk about, we would send out a text that would royally just tick you off. And so to lead into what's going on with leaders around the world, that's what we would text out today if we were doing it to you today.
Yeah, so this first story we want to talk about, well, first to just do a quick rundown. So we're going to talk about world leaders and kind of the authoritarian things that are happening. We're going to look specifically at France. And thanks to Nate for bringing that to our attention this morning. And then we're going to kind of flow into what Joe Biden said yesterday after his COVID response team had a meeting, and he did a little like press conference or whatever you want to call it. And there's a lot of... the clips will be great. And then we've got some clips that the world famous Joe Rogan podcast with Dr. Robert Malone. If you guys don't know, I think we've mentioned him before. Robert Malone is one of the original inventors of the mRNA technology. And we'll probably do more backstory on him and some more stuff. But just to give you a quick intro on that. And then after that, we're going to wrap things up talking about something that California school systems implemented last year. I don't know. This one kind of slipped under the radar, but it's just interesting to think about what could be happening in your kids' schools if you're not paying attention. Yeah. So, Nate, why don't you talk to us or give us a little rundown first on this stuff happening in France?
Yeah, so you got Emmanuel Macron, who comes out.
And he's the president?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. He's your man in charge. And he goes on, he gives some great quotes, really. Just great quotes. So his goal is to piss off those who refuse to get the jabs by blocking them from restaurants, sports centers, travel, and other services and venues. He also goes on to say, and we will continue to do this to the end. This is the strategy.
Yeah, and it says the bitter end.
Yep.
The bitter end. So you have a president, an elected official leading a country who said his sole goal is to piss off the unjabbed.
Yep.
And we're going to do this to the bitter end. How in the world can this not cause an uprising?
Yep. He referred to the unvaccinated people in France as non-citizens.
Yes.
And the report here says that that's referring to 5 million unvaccinated citizens in France as non-citizens.
Yep.
And I guess if you think about it, that's basically what the administration is saying about unvaccinated people in America without being so, I don't know, straight up about it. Like they're really, it's a class of non-citizens.
Right. That's what they're drawing the line to say. If you are not listening to our propaganda and you're not doing this step, then you will not be able to participate in society. That's what we see in New York City. That's what we're seeing in other big cities. Mm-hmm. Chicago, the murder capital of the country, but you can't go into a McDonald's without your COVID passport. So what we're seeing though is the emboldening, I believe, of these leaders. And I didn't have time to look before I came on the show, but I think that France was part of the G7, right? I'll have to check. I'll Google it here. But it's very interesting that they're so emboldened now that you have to get the vaccine or you are literally a lower class citizen. As we have seen in history, if there's a liberty somewhere, they'll fight for those people that are being discriminated against. My only concern is, as we go on in the show today, we're going to find out that our own leadership believes this.
Yeah. Nate, I think you still have the full story up about this and everything he said. Anywhere in his quotes, did he say anything about the vaccine being used as a strategy to stop the COVID outbreak or to save lives or any of that other, garbage that they've been shoving down our throats?
The article just mentions it's all connected to the health pass.
Okay.
Of course.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Get the pass.
So they want to, quoting him, want to piss off the unvaccinated people, and he will do so until the bitter end. Nothing to do with COVID.
It has
nothing to do with COVID.
COVID is the optimal. We read that, about the World Economic Forum, that COVID is the opportunity to be able to implement what they've been trying to do. And by the way, the G7 does include France.
Okay.
And so
shocker.
Shocker. All the people that were in the G7, right at the beginning of 2021, when they had their summit, all of those presidents of countries are going hardcore on this. And of course, America is a little bit behind because we still have guns, but the rest of them are going hardcore and literally taking away citizenships and torturing their people because being unvaccinated does not fit their agenda.
And if this was about the majority being safe or anything like that, or herd immunity or whatever, it goes on to say approximately 90% of those eligible for the vaccine have taken their jabs, while a small minority continues to resist the shots. 90% have done what they want you to do.
Right. And it's not stopping anything.
No. Nothing.
Because it's not about COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. You had that thing with Antarctica?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they're all vaccinated. They wanted to take every precaution because they're out there in the middle of nowhere, and they're all still getting COVID.
So it's just like those, you see the stories about the cruise ships or, these different places where nobody was allowed into the venue or on the boat or whatever if they weren't vaccinated. And then they have a mass outbreak of COVID. Well, an unvaccinated person didn't bring it into the situation because they weren't allowed in there in the first place.
Right.
Yep.
It's clear. It's clear. Common sense. It's clear. But all of this nonsense is just for the agenda and for a president, an elected, I won't say duly elected because who knows, but same with our country, right?
Yeah, right.
But an elected president who represents millions of people to say, I'm going to war with you. That's what he's saying. We're going to war with you to the bitter end till we get the jab in your arm. That's our goal as a country. And he's elected. That to me, that the citizens, and maybe they are, we'll have to research it, but the citizens of France, we have to, it's almost speechless, but we have to just say, this is not okay. We have AOC in Florida without a mask. She's forcing everybody in Manhattan to wear a mask. She goes to Florida to a drag bar and is not wearing a mask. And she says, it doesn't matter, right? I'm not. It's just like Nancy Pelosi getting her hair done without a mask in California. Yeah. The ruling elite are implementing their agenda on the populace of the world to directly implement their agenda that is completely false in every way.
The AOC thing is funny though. If nobody heard that story, she basically came out and said, the only reason people have a problem with this because I'm so hot.
Oh yeah.
And they just want me.
So yeah. Literally
no. Weird to say something like that.
No. But it's completely out of the realm. And so my concern about all of it is, there's lots of concerns, but one of my concerns is they're coming out so boldly about all this. And I think that people are actually thinking this can't be true.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that.
Like it can't be that the French president just declared war on 5 million people in his country and said, we're going to make your life miserable until you comply with what we're doing. I mean, there's world wars that were started over this kind of thing, you know?
We have the link. We'll put it in the show notes. Like, go read it for yourself.
Read it for yourself.
Read the comments for yourself. And again, notice he never mentions anything about what the vaccine is supposed to be used for, which is preventing COVID.
It's just about compliance.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Exactly. So are we good with the Macron stuff? I didn't know.
Well, I'm not good with it, but we can move on.
Have we discussed everything we wanted to discuss?
Yeah, I think so.
Because now talking about how the vaccines are not stopping COVID the way they told us they would, Joe Biden did his press conference yesterday after the COVID response team met or whatever. It's getting so hard to follow all this stuff anymore. But here's just a couple clips that I thought were interesting. We'll just play this and then we'll talk about it.
Omicron is very transmissible variant, but much different than anything we've seen before. But you can protect yourself. And you should protect yourself, quite frankly. Get vaccinated. You can still get COVID. This continues to be a pandemic of the unvaccinated. And we're seeing COVID-19 cases among vaccinated in workplaces across America, including here at the White House. So there's no excuse for anyone being unvaccinated. If you are vaccinated and boosted, you may get COVID.
That is just
come on.
Typical Biden. Oh my gosh, 5 different directions. It's a pandemic of the unvaccinated, but all the vaccinated people are getting it.
Even at the White House. Yeah.
He took the nicer Macron approach.
Yeah.
No, go do it.
I love it. You know, you need to get protected. And matter of fact, you should be protected. You can still get COVID.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Joe.
You know, one of the great things is that they're actually understanding that their lies are not affecting the majority anymore. So they actually have to say you could get COVID, because forever, you know, we did MSNBC and all those people saying you couldn't get COVID if you were vaccinated. So now they actually have to say it because they know that their lies are getting pulled out by people like us and other media around the world. Yep. It's complete insanity, and we're gonna obviously see more.
I got just one more quick one that goes right into what you're saying about the lies. And there is a serious messaging problem, and these people are not communicating about the lies and which direction are we going, and people aren't believing this, and so said that. But just check this out.
Please wear your mask in public.
Don't wear a cloth mask. Cloth masks are little more than facial decorations. There's no place for them in light of Omicron.
I mean, you wonder why people don't know what to think anymore, because that clip from CNN was from last week, I think. And then then Biden yesterday on January 4th comes out and says, wear a mask.
Even if you're fully vaxxed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everywhere. Just do it. Do it. It is amazing that presidents of countries are so controlled by this underbelly of things going on that has nothing to do with their office. It's just crazy.
It's wild. I mean, it really is. And I just, when I was listening to his conference after that yesterday, I'm like, he's saying the opposite back and forth the whole time. So I just like, let's put the clips together and just show it all back to back.
Yeah.
Get vaccinated. They don't work, but they work. Get protected. You won't really be protected.
Yeah.
And he also goes in and talks about how, like, you know, if your kids aren't vaccinated yet, what are you doing? You need to get them vaccinated. It's the only way to protect them. They can still get COVID, but, and I'm just like, stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
We got teachers taking kids into their house and jabbing them.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean,
did you see that article?
I did not.
There was a report, a teacher actually took a student and injected them with the COVID.
17 years old.
Where was this at?
I believe it was New York. I could be wrong.
I would say it had to be there, California.
Check.
Yeah,
but
we'll have to. But we read it yesterday. It was like, are you kidding me? Arrested now because of injecting a minor without
and it
without
said,
cause.
quote, they did not know where she obtained the vaccine from.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yep.
You can't make it up.
You gotta laugh, and I think that's the difference between a lot of people right now is there are still a large amount of people who have a sense of humor that can look at the absolute wickedness going on and just say, wow. It's just so, just so ridiculous. You got to chuckle a little bit.
And that is what it is, ridiculousness.
Yeah.
All over the place. Wow. But yeah, so a teacher takes a kid and injects them without their
Long Island.
There you go.
Okay.
He was arrested.
Well, don't you think you should be? Number one, where'd you get the vaccine?
Yeah.
Number two, injecting a minor. Number three, you're just stupid.
I mean, I don't, again, I'm not a medical professional, but I thought it was the medical professionals who had to administer medicine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I can't write my own scripts, but at least I didn't think I could.
Maybe we
All
should.
rules are off. It's
right.
Yep. Bring a Post-it note to your local pharmacy. You can
He'll just hand you a vial of it. There you go.
Right.
Oh, man.
Well, maybe she thought she was going to get some sort of financial incentive for administering the vaccine, which is kind of what the next topic is we wanted to talk about. So I'm just trying to segue.
I could have went three other ways with the teachers union on that one.
I'm still scrolling through articles. It's just ridiculous.
But I'm sure by now most people have at least heard somebody talking about Dr. Robert Malone being on Joe Rogan's podcast. And I tell you what, Joe Rogan we got to be pretty thankful that he's doing what he's doing, because he has a humongous audience, millions of people.
And we were talking yesterday, greater than all the major networks, greater than.
Yeah, I saw a breakdown of his influence, and it compared him to like Fox, MSNBC, NBC, everything, and his was millions above all of those platforms.
And he just asked questions.
Yep.
Like he's doing what a lot of these quote unquote, fake journalists don't do. He's just asking questions.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to ask a question when every morning you get your text that tells you what you're supposed to talk about.
Right.
So it's hard to ask questions because it would take them off of their talking points for the day. But he's asking tough questions to many people and getting answers. And the reason why Twitter's shutting him down and other places, which is why he went to Getter and all that stuff. But the reason why is because he's asking for answers from the people that should be able to give them to him. And they're answering honestly, which goes against the talking points. That's why his audience is growing.
And like what you said with Biden and these other world leaders, they're back and forth. Now, Joe Rogan has had 3 doctors on within the last week or two, and they're all saying pretty much the same exact thing. So
I think they are saying the same thing just from their own background. So
their own experience,
whatever their training was. I mean, they're talking from that perspective. I'm a cardiologist, so I'll talk from that perspective, but they're all saying the same thing.
Yep.
I wouldn't let this near my family. Yeah. That's what they're saying.
Yep.
And a lot of them are, a lot of what they're saying too is, why is nobody talking about early treatment and first of all, how to prevent COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if you do get COVID, don't just sit at home and wait for it to get bad enough that then you have to go to the hospital. And then at that point, it's too late for these treatment methods.
Yep.
Right.
If they get treated early, then you might be sick for they were saying maybe a day and a half, and then you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Dr. McCullough, who he had on a couple weeks ago, mentioned peroxide, gargling peroxide, or iodine, and these treatments that he does daily when he gets home or is around people for a long period of time, and he has stayed away from it.
Gargle Listerine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he just talks about methods of, it's not like it's these weird conspiracy theory medicines. Like, it's basically just keeping your nasal passages clean.
Yep.
And keeping your throat clean, because he said once the virus gets from there to your lungs, that's when you have trouble.
Yep.
But if you can kill it while it's up north, then you're good.
Yeah.
So, but here's Dr. Malone.
Not medical advice.
Well,
we're not giving medical
I'm
advice.
just conveying what I've heard.
I know. I'm just saying.
You're talking about a horse dewormer.
Not a doctor. Not a doctor. So speaking of horse dewormer, Joe Rogan with Malone here talking about, this was interesting because he kept mentioning financial incentives for these hospitals, and Joe asked him 3 different times, can we come back to that? And then he would start, and then he would get off on another tangent, and then finally Rogan's like, listen, we got to talk about these financial incentives.
For all that stuff, all that noise that's inherent in the system.
Now, you just glossed over the financial incentive to report a COVID death. What is that? What is the financial incentive? Because there's all these rumors that you would hear about what a hospital gets paid per COVID death, and that the government gives them money, and that they're incentivized to make something, mark it down. It's not rumors.
It's not rumors. Now, I don't have the specific numbers at the top of my head. I'm not a hospitalist. I'm not a hospital administrator. But the numbers are quite large. There's something like a $3,000 basically death benefit to a hospital if it can be claimed to be COVID. There's a financial incentive to call somebody COVID positive. The CDC made a determination in year one. This is why all of our baseline data is junk.
What is the financial incentive to say that they're COVID positive? That's why the PCR cycles are ramped up so high?
Again, you're asking causation.
Right.
I can tell you that the hospitals receive a bonus from the government. I think it's like $3,000 if someone is hospitalized and able to be declared COVID positive. They also receive a bonus. I think the total is something like $30,000 in incentive if somebody gets put on the vent. Then they get a bonus if somebody is declared dead with COVID. Okay? So they have an incentive at the front end to declare somebody a COVID case. The CDC made a determination that they were going to make a core assumption: if PCR positive and you die, that is death due to COVID.
So bonus points all around, right?
Oh my word! Yeah, everybody gets their hands patted with some cash if COVID is a determined in any form. And we've even heard locally of an accident victim that died clearly of a car accident that was ruled as a COVID death. And the doctor locally even said, "Are you kidding? Like, this is not right." But so the hospital got paid for it. They had to list it as a COVID death so they could make the extra money.
Right. It's disgusting.
It is. It's horrible.
But it explains why the early treatment isn't being talked about, isn't a thing. Nobody wants to do early treatment because there's no incentive for that.
So he didn't say, at least in that clip, he didn't say that they're getting incentivized per positive PCR test. In a way he did, but he didn't say what they're getting compensated.
Right.
But it's very interesting that, the CDC came out last week and said quarantine goes from 10 days to 5 days with no extra, there's no details on that. It was just like, oh, we're cutting it back because it's shutting down a lot of businesses, which is not helping their bottom line. So cut it back, whatever, with the new variant. But it's interesting that that's where it ended. Everybody changes their policies. All the local hospitals change their policies now and all of that. And now they go meet with the president yesterday as COVID response team. And now they want you to have a negative COVID test before you return to work in many cases. That's a recommendation. So they want you to test to be found out that you're positive. They also want you to be tested again. So if there is a financial gain for testing, then the CDC just again is requiring an extra test for you to go back to normal life, which somebody's getting paid for, I would assume, from that conversation. Mm-hmm. So they're saying all of that and saying we need to require more tests because it's going to make us more money.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it does explain a lot about the testing stuff. Never really made much sense.
No, it didn't. And you can go to the store and buy one and scan it, and And I've
been listening to quite a few people talk about how the COVID tests actually are super flawed. They make no sense whatsoever because, like, for instance, I traveled out of the country, so I had to have a negative test to get on the airplane, but it had to be within 3 days of travel. So I got my test done on Thursday. I didn't travel until Sunday. Well, from the time I took my test on Thursday, which it came back negative. So on Thursday, when I took the test at 9 a.m., I was negative. But as soon as I left the hospital, I could have gone over to McDonald's and walked in and somebody could have coughed on me. Boom, I got COVID.
Yeah.
But I got my negative test results.
Yeah.
Right.
So I walk onto the plane with my negative results, but I'm COVID positive.
It just comes back to common sense.
Exactly.
There is none. in that logic.
No,
there is none.
More logic is, so today's January 5th. I believe today was kind of like the original deadline for everybody had to be fired if they weren't vaccinated, right?
Yeah.
But like these, the CMS mandate for hospital workers and things like that. So a lot of that stuff was executed. A lot of healthcare workers lost their jobs. And now we know that hospitals have been told, at least locally in our area, I know that if you're vaccinated and you test positive for COVID, as long as your symptoms are not severe, you're supposed to come to work.
Yeah. So the article, which we can link to, Fox 8 News reported this in Ohio. Summa Health Systems said that employees can continue working with mild COVID symptoms, and they're actually calling people, because they're so short-staffed, they're calling people to come back that had been fired because they didn't get the vax. And so they're so desperate now, they're actually telling those people to come back because, well, the mandate hasn't been enforced, right? It's hung up in court. But I find it very interesting that Summa, after firing all these nurses, are now so desperate for nurses that they're willing to let people that are COVID positive, even having some symptoms, to come in and work on patients.
Yeah, because a lot of the opposition to, I know because we were protesting the mandates here locally.
Right.
And a lot of the opposition to that was, you know, if you care about patient health, you should be vaccinated or lose your job, whatever. If you're not going to protect your patients, go find another job. I heard a lot of that garbage. I wonder what those people have to say now that the reports come out that hospital workers are being told, well, even if you have COVID and even if you have symptoms, as long as they're mild, you need to be at work.
Yeah.
So people had to be fired over this virus, and now all of a sudden they need to come to work even if they have it.
Yeah. And to go back to 2020, these people are on the front lines.
Yes.
Right? They're fighting every single day to keep everyone safe. Then they come in with the mandate junk and fire a lot of people.
And they were called selfish if they didn't get it.
Exactly. Selfish if they didn't get the vaccine. Yeah. And now they're saying, even if you have COVID, come on in. We need workers that bad. It is complete craziness. And I know we've said that about every article that we've talked about today, but it is complete nonsense that you're telling people, oh, you didn't get the vaccine, so you're fired, but now we need you back because now you're in high demand. We need you back. And we don't care what your vaccination status is. That's the same with NFL and everybody else, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to go pull people off the streets that were on our practice squads in preseason. We're going to pull them off, let them play, even though they aren't vaxxed, even though it's a league mandate. We're going to do it because if we don't, the Browns and Steelers aren't going to play on Monday night. And so we got to pull those people in.
I remember when you used to be a hero in sports if you played sick or injured. Isn't it ironic?
Yeah,
it is.
The flu game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that, I mean, it's money. I mean, the NFL is a great example because they were sitting there going, man, it's week 16, week 17. We got the playoffs coming around the corner. The last thing that they need is to have, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into a key playoff game and all of a sudden Tom Brady can't play because he tested positive.
Yep.
Even if he's asymptomatic, but he's positive, by their protocol, he wouldn't have been able to play in that game.
Right.
It ruins playoffs. And now all of a sudden your fan base of the NFL starts to deteriorate because it's like, well, this is stupid now.
Yep.
Right. So we see the hospitals are making decisions on money. The NFL's making decisions on money.
Yes.
I think that the old saying is true. Just follow the money. The money is what's dictating COVID-19 responses. The money is what's dictating how the policies are being run. Mm-hmm. And I believe even with Macron and Biden, and it's all about the money, the billions that the industry is producing for testing, for vaccines, for all that. It's a money game.
And then you can be like AOC and live in New York, but then just travel to Florida and have freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to follow your own rules.
Yeah. So for all of you supporters of AOC, that you're at home in your house, not able to go to the restaurant and go to the Target down the block, you can't go there because you don't. Well, now your leader that you elected is now down in Florida enjoying the sunshine and no mask and going to fly back and tell you that you can't go to school tomorrow.
Yep.
That complete hypocrisy all across the board.
Yeah, it's terrible. And you're right. Follow the money because, I mean, I can even, give my testimonial whenever COVID ran through our house in 2020. It was June of 2020, so still kind of early on. But my wife was working the COVID floor, right, at our local hospital. And, she got a phone call from, I think it was from the health department one day, said, hey, you know, they have to test or whatever. I forget that situation, but they called and said, hey, you tested positive. She was like, oh, well, I've kind of been feeling a little under the weather, but I didn't. Well, and that was it. It was stay home for 14 days or however long it was at the time, and don't go anywhere, don't talk, whatever. And not one word about how to treat it at home, anything to do, like to prevent a hospitalization. Like there was nothing. It was just, hey, you tested positive, don't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was it. We were just kind of left on our own. We're like, well,
right.
You're going to give something to do? Like it was very weird.
Yeah. Let's just wait till they come into the hospital asking for more treatment.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard a lot of that lately about they're doing studies about kind of trying to calculate the unnecessary deaths due to the lack of preventative treatment.
Yeah. So we have a CDC and a leader who is saying, you know, vaccination is the only stoppage to the virus. Like, you know, it's the only thing you can do, Fauci continues to say. Yet what if he came on and said, if you have a positive test, these are the first 10 things you need to do. Now they may be saying that on the NBC5 nightly news because they're trying to save lives, but we're not seeing it from the leadership of the country. However illegitimate, the leadership of the country to say this is what we need to do to save lives, which means that I believe they're complicit in that. They know that people are going to die because they're not sharing the truth. And so there should be something done about that.
Absolutely, there should be. But I mean, I know we didn't plan on talking about it, but Cuomo, nothing happened in the nursing home scandal.
Yeah, it seems like the elites are able to skirt the law, go to Florida, come back and be represented in New York and Manhattan and be above the law. And that's exactly what an oligarchy is. It's a rule of a few.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Right. That's what they're doing. Yeah. And I believe that we're on the brink of losing the republic. I mean, I think in some cases we already have, but we have an electorate that has the power, at least at this point. And if we don't run for office and get good people in office and support good people, we are going to miss our opportunity to, you know, they're talking about a global reset. Well, we just need to get back to the founding documents of our country and believe that people are good. You know, that's the one thing I was sitting in a meeting today before this, and one of the things that I noticed was the conversation was not about that. In the very beginning, when you meet somebody, that the conversation about them or interaction with them is that they're a good person. I think that a lot of the population has been trained through the media to view everyone as an enemy, to view everyone in a negative light when they don't even know them, and they're already looking down on them. And I think that is, you know, you used to be able to formulate the opinion that you don't like that person or they're a dud by spending time with them and figuring out that they just lie all the time or whatever. But when you go into a conversation already looking at someone from a negative light, then you're never going to find the positive of anything. Your whole conversation, your whole interaction is going to be negative. And we have that bad starting point. I believe it's even taking over our schools. It's taking over everything to where people just go into conversations assuming people are bad people. And that's that's an indictment against our media. That's an indictment against our administration that, you know, we have to get back to people are good, because they are. People are good. And we have to agree with, like, start off on that foundation. People are good. And maybe some people do bad things, and that makes us not want to be around them. But we got to start with that good foundation.
Yeah, it's the innocent until proven guilty. You're good until you prove to me that you're bad.
Right.
That's the thing. Like, because I was talking to my wife about that, and she said it's completely reversed now. Like, you are guilty until you can prove that you are innocent, Correct. And that's not the way it's supposed to work.
No, it's not. And it goes all the way down to, you know, the district attorneys who are not prosecuting people that commit violence because it's
'Cause it's the
their
car's
race
fault?
or, whatever.
I said because it's the car's fault.
Exactly. Well, the new DA in Manhattan, obviously Soros funded, but he came out yesterday and sent a letter, and it's just crazy, saying if you stick a gun in somebody's face in Manhattan right now, okay, you walk up to somebody and you stick a gun in their face, but you don't pull the trigger, you should get no jail time. You shouldn't even have any charges brought against you.
Boy, when are we going to New York?
Well, you can't get in without a passport.
Yeah, right.
But I think it goes back to that whole foundational statement that you can't prosecute somebody not because of the actions that they took. You can't prosecute them because of underlying issues. Mm-hmm. They had some kind of trauma, so now we're not going to be able to prosecute them.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of leads into this this next portion of Malone's interview with Joe Rogan, where he was talking about the mass formation psychosis, and that's kind of like the new buzz, where I think a lot of people are hearing more and more about this, and it's kind of stemming from. Wouldn't you say it's stemming from this interview?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
The three. I think the three. I know two for sure. Dr. McCullough and Malone have mentioned the mass psychosis. So, all
right. Well, let me just play the clip, and then we can discuss it here.
From basically European intellectual inquiry into what the heck happened in Germany in the 20s and 30s. Very intelligent, highly educated population, and they went barking mad. And how did that happen? The answer is mass formation psychosis. When you have a society that has become decoupled from each other and has free-floating anxiety and a sense that things don't make sense, we can't understand it, and then their attention gets focused by a leader or a series of events on one small point, just like hypnosis, they literally become hypnotized and can be led anywhere. And one of the aspects of that phenomena is the people that they identify as their leaders, the ones typically that come in and say, you have this pain and I can solve it for you. I and I alone, okay, can fix this problem for you. Okay, then they will follow that person through. It doesn't matter whether they lie to him or whatever. The data are irrelevant. And furthermore, anybody who questions that narrative is to be immediately attacked. They are the other. This is central to mass formation psychosis. And this is what has happened. We had all those conditions. If you remember back before 2019, everybody was complaining, the world doesn't make sense, blah, blah, blah. And we're all isolated from each other. We're all on our little tools. We're not connected socially anymore, except through social media. And then this thing happened and everybody focused on it. That is how mass formation psychosis happens. And that is what's happened here.
Yeah, take it away, Nate. I know you were reading some stuff about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point he makes is once you achieve this, the data is irrelevant. I think that speaks volumes, and that's exactly what we see all over the world right now. They have everybody fixed on this, so any data that goes against what they push, people just don't listen to.
You're right, because in the hypnosis point that he makes, it does make sense, because why are so many people just so easily convinced that this vaccine will save everybody when it clearly isn't doing that?
Right.
Like the data is clear that it's not working, but yet people are still, hey, I got my booster.
Yeah.
It's about force feeding people their agenda, and that is it. Mm-hmm. And then anything else that anybody comes out and says the opposite of, it's looked at as whacked out, conspiracy theory, whatever.
It truly is, and it's why we have to be awakened to the truth. They're propagating lies all over the place because they have this already, as you mentioned. But what we have to do as an awakened people is to tell people that we know, listen, this is the truth. One of the things I loved about the Glenn Beck episode that we did was we had the documents in our hands, like on our devices, but we had had the documents. Mm-hmm. Like this was when the signature happened. This is the truth. Now, what the elites are telling you is whatever that they want to tell you, but this is the truth because that guy signed this document on this day, and we have to be messengers of truth in this hour.
It's a good point. When Biden did his conference the other day, talking about how the COVID response team and how everybody needs to go and get vaccinated, he didn't provide any data.
No, it's
no
just
supporting
talking.
evidence or documentation as to like, here's what we've seen, here's what we know, here's how we can prove that it is working. He just reiterating over and over, get the shot, get the shot, get the shot.
Yeah.
Never telling you anything to support it.
No, and that's the biggest problem I see with all of it is that the people that we're following, that we're gathering info from, the research we're doing on our own, is gathering documentation, gathering clips. That's why I hope you like our show, to bringing you all these different avenues of information, but we're bringing it to you and saying, this is where you go find it. This is the data. Well, our president or imposter in chief, whatever you want to call him, he's sitting there saying, this is what you need to do. Not a word about documentation, not a word about an article that says that you need to do this because it's helping. None. But all the people that we're following are bringing on experts, as we just heard, bringing on experts who created this thing and saying, this is the truth. Mm-hmm. And that's why I believe, we talked about Joe Rogan and how many followers. He switched to Getter and like 8 million followers within the first day. It's because he's uncovering truth. That's what we're hoping to do on many different fronts, not just one topic. But I believe that's the only thing we can do in this hour is bring light to darkness.
Absolutely. And I think it's important. I think we've said this before. Maybe you were one of the people that were convinced that the vaccines were going to work. And now you realize you've seen the data and you think, hang on a second, that's not what I was told. Good for you. Like, it's okay. It's okay to have been wrong or to have believed something that was wrong before and now realize, now I understand what's going on and I'm seeing it differently. That's great. I mean, I think it's at some point we're all going to get to that point, and those who never do, it's way too late anyhow for them. But
it's amazing.
Yeah, the truth is right. Like you said, Nate, when things don't make sense, when logic is just like, that just doesn't make any sense, then something's wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I know this ties into quotes that Aaron Rodgers talked about, which I know we're going to get to in a minute. And it sums everything up. It's in that same stream. He's saying the exact same thing that these doctors are saying.
Yeah, well, I'll just play the quote because, it's quick, but man, was it powerful.
If science can't be questioned, it's not science anymore, it's propaganda.
What a great reaction.
McAfee just like, yeah.
He summed up 2 years of madness right there.
Yeah. I agree. He did. It's like, isn't the basis of science questioning everything?
I don't care what side of this you're on. I don't care if you're lining up for your 18th booster. If that statement doesn't hold some truth to you, there's a problem. Like, I don't care if you're in line for your 18th booster. If it can't be questioned, that's a problem.
That is a problem.
For sure.
Because and I know Glenn Beck, who we're going to listen to about the school stuff here in a minute though, but he's been saying for years now, science is the act of questioning. That's what science is, questioning.
Right.
Why, how, what, doing experiments against stuff you already think you know.
100%.
He gave a great example today about people being persecuted, however many centuries ago it was, when they were saying, you know what, I think the the earth revolves around the sun. I don't think the sun revolves around the earth. And the leaders then were like, away with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't say that. And he said, but the leaders then, they knew that was true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that was true, but you couldn't say it.
Yep.
Because it took away from their power. So to come out and say, these vaccines aren't going to stop COVID, that takes away from their power. This emergency power that's been in place for 2 years.
Yeah. Which doesn't seem to be going to go away anytime soon.
Because
it doesn't fit into their agenda.
Yep.
I love what Aaron Rodgers says also. He says, behind the scenes, many teams have used or recommended the same treatment plans that he used in his recovery.
Yeah.
It goes to show the hypocrisy.
Yeah, so behind the scenes in all those locker rooms, they're still using the stuff that isn't able to be used here.
Yep.
At the pharmacy. They're using it all in the locker rooms because they got to make money. And I swear, they're saying, we have to do this. We have to do this. And he's in the locker room.
Yep. He sees all of it.
Yeah.
And I love that he just doesn't care.
Right.
He'll come straight out and say that. Like, you're not going to hear a lot of these other guys come out and say that because, well, he's just at that level of his career and his level of play where he's like, okay, fine, kick me off the team, whatever. Like, he just doesn't care anymore. And he's just doing what he knows is right. And I think that is interesting because if they're using those early treatment practices that no one else is allowed to even mention,
Right.
That's because the NFL is saying we need these guys on the field or else we're not making money.
Because he has a legitimate reason. He says he has a allergy to an ingredient in the vaccine. And then he goes on to say, when did science become this blind agreement and not having any debate over what can actually heal people and work for people? That makes no sense to me. He also Rodgers said that while he has his strong beliefs regarding his position on the vaccine, he takes no issue with those who opt for the shot, which is exactly what we've all been saying.
That's what we've been saying. If you want it, get it. We're just trying to bring to you what we know and what the documents are showing.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that will look at the data of, well, smoking could lead to lung cancer. I'm going to smoke anyway. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm not going to condemn you or like ostracize you because you smoke.
Yep.
Right. Exactly.
That's totally your call. If you want, go
if you want to eat McDonald's every day, go for it.
You make your own lifestyle choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, COVID. You guys want to stop?
We're going to stop the COVID talk. But I do want to say, just to everybody watching, that we so appreciate what is happening. We've released videos. You're following us. You're subscribing. You're clicking the notifications button on YouTube and all the other places. And we just really value the discussion. I mean, hundreds of comments coming in on what we're talking about. And so we just want to say thank you for being a part of that. If you want to take the next step to go a little deeper, text AGA to 330-619-4497, and you can be one of our insiders. But thank you for sharing, commenting, forwarding these videos to people who may not know about the AGA network or about the Awakened show. We are so excited to see what is happening and the growth of what we're doing.
Yeah, it has been a lot of fun because it feels like a responsibility that we have the capability, we have the technology to get these messages out to the public. And, the more people out there that stand up and do their part to, move truth through society, the better off we're going to be. So yeah, like Rob said, share the messages, talk to your friends, have these discussions. Don't be afraid to get in. Now, if you're getting into an argument with somebody, doesn't believe in, your rights and things like that, maybe you don't want to argue with them.
But you're going to Starbucks anyway.
Yeah.
Just buy an extra cup and go sit with somebody and say, here's some truth. Here's some truth. It may be hard to take, but here's some truth.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want to watch this 10-minute video with me?
Yeah, exactly.
Just watch it with them.
Yeah. Yep. Good stuff. And they'll enjoy the coffee.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know. I'm not a big Starbucks guy.
Okay, well, any place you can go to the Human Bean. I don't care where you go. Get the Human Bean, but go somewhere, grab an extra one when you're there, and find somebody and say, hey, let's talk about what's going on in the world. Because the reason why mass things happen, whether it be psychosis or tragedies or whatever, it's because the majority of the people didn't talk and didn't say anything when the time was okay to do it, and that time disappears. And so share your
getting
stuff.
The news from Facebook feed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cut 10 minutes a day out of your scrolling habit and go talk to somebody and watch this video with them.
Yep.
All right. So I know we're kind of going up against time here for the episode, but we just want to play this clip from Glenn Beck. This is from, I think it was March 21, right? Earlier in the last year.
Yeah, March.
Okay.
Yep.
And they were highlighting something that had been, well, I'll just let them talk about it and then we can discuss it because it's interesting to hear.
In an article from the National Review, the Board of Education in California recently voted unanimously to approve the ethnic studies model curriculum for use in all of the state's public schools. This curriculum, the National Review says, is probably the most radical, ideologically loaded educational document ever offered up for public consideration in the free world. Here's why. Students are to be taught that white Christian settlers committed theocide against indigenous tribes when they arrived in the New World by murdering Native American gods and replacing them with the Christian God. According to the curriculum, this replacement ushered in a regime defined by coloniality, dehumanization, and genocide, and the explicit erasure and replacement of holistic indigenous gods and their humanity. But all is not lost, for students are also going to learn that they have the power and the responsibility to build a social order defined by counter-genocide, which will eventually supplant the last vestiges of colonial Christianity and pave the way for, and I'm quoting, regeneration of indigenous, estimistic, and cultural futurity. I can't. A future that has the old gods and is culturally in line with what the indigenous people wanted to do.
That'll make your blood boil.
It does. But, it's from March, so we want to clarify that that's when it was. You stated that. But some things have happened since then. This was not back in March, it wasn't like this theory. Like, they passed it. It's in the schools in California. You wonder why we're having issues? You wonder why we're having issues in California? It's because of this nonsense being done in the buildings. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what they're going to do, Nate?
Yeah, the curriculum
what they are doing?
It would go to nearly 10,600 public schools in the state of California that serve 6.2 million students.
Oh my gosh.
K through 12. Kindergarten. I can't even fathom that. Chapter 5 of the nearly 900-page curriculum offers 9 pages of affirmations, chants, and energizers meant to bring the class together, build unity around ethnic studies principles and values, and reinvigorate the class following a lesson.
So we're going to summon the dark world into the classroom. It's what it is. We're summoning... They played on this clip. They played what they're actually saying. It's in the transcript of the clip of what they're actually saying, and they're summoning spirits from another realm to come into the classroom to foster equity and diversity.
During these lessons, the names of these Aztec gods are collectively invoked 20 times, 4 times each. In other words, summoning. Throughout the prayer, the suit reads, "They are honored and praised by repeatedly invoking their respective names, followed by the mention of various attributes and principles relating to these Aztec gods. The prayers ask for things like beautiful knowledge, becoming more realized human beings, as well as strength that allows us to transform and renew."
And then, does it say in there some of these gods?
Yeah, so the gods that they're worshiping, this is what they're attributed to, and this is documented, this is truth. The Aztec gods were worshipped with brutal human sacrifice, including ripping the beating heart out of a victim. Aztec worship is associated with black magic, cannibalism, bloodletting, and the flaying of victims' bodies to provide a skin suit worn as golden clothes by Aztec priests. Victims' hearts were often burned in offering, and the dead bodies then fed to animals or eaten by the people. Other victims were fastened to frames and shot full of arrows, with their blood dripping down like the fertile spring rains.
Just hearing that description and then thinking about, the white settlers coming over with their Christian God, I'm sure these indigenous people were like, wait, what? Your God is good?
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't do any of that.
We throw people off of the pyramids.
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't like you will worship our Christian God. They probably, I know because I'm reading a history book about it right now, but they just told them the good news, right?
Yeah.
Shared the gospel with them and
in many cases lived with them. We have in our own area here where they came and settled and lived with the Indians and learned how to do things with them. And said, listen, this is how we're going to evangelize the West.
Yeah, we can offer you freedom.
Yeah, we can offer you freedom. So we've got millions. How many million? Can you pull that up?
6.2.
6.2 million students who are chanting to Aztec gods, summoning those spirits into the classroom to benefit our education system. And obviously this is approved by the unions and all of that. If you have a child in California in a public school, and they are doing this, your responsibility is to remove them as fast as possible, to find a Bible-believing church and cast that off of them. Whatever they've chanted to come on them, you remove that from them, find a pastor, call the number, connect with us, we'll get it off of them. And then you need to get them into a place where they're actually going to be not summoning demons every day and connected to just some decent life. Are you kidding? Like, this is nonsense. We're the state of California, and subsequently, I'm sure other states, are passing this agenda, summoning demons into classrooms. It's insane.
And even if people don't believe us, I think, will you link this video?
Oh yeah.
He goes on to explain that.
Way more in depth also. It's about a 12-minute video.
Yep.
Total. Yeah.
So,
yeah, you got to watch the whole thing. But the key is, if you're there, okay, and then let's say you're there, but your kids are in a private school and not dealing with all this, which is great. But you need to run for office for the school board in California, and you need to say, this nonsense isn't happening on my watch. And you need to remove those people who sign on to this. And it can be done. It's been done here on many different occasions. But I'm saying, all across the country and all around the world, for all of you, we've gotten tons of comments from other countries, and amazing. Thank you for watching. But you need to do whatever you can in your area to fight the good fight of being available to be used, to be elected, to run for office, and bring some kind of sanity to this insane world.
Kind of goes back to Nate earlier again, saying it doesn't make sense. Like, there was such a push to get religion out of schools. They wanted the Bible, God, out of schools, out of the Pledge of Allegiance. And now all of a sudden it's in the curriculum to worship Aztec gods?
Yeah, they weren't trying to remove religion. They were trying to remove Christianity.
Yeah.
They want religion.
And just read.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
They want religion. They just don't want God religion.
So they call it religion, though. You know what I mean? Like, when they're trying to get Christianity out of the school, they say, well, we don't want religion in the schools.
Right. Yeah.
Well, the terminology, and it's all focused around unity. Like, that's all the lingo they use is unity, togetherness. Like, this is what this is all about. And if you go back to a previous video we did a while ago talking about the one world religion, that's exactly the same thing they're saying. Unity, togetherness. Yeah. Like, let's gather around this.
Yeah. And we're seeing it in public documents. Again, this is documented, 900-page curriculum.
Yep.
You can go get it. It's there, and they're doing all of this and perpetrating it on young skulls full of mush who are supposed to be being taught things that can benefit the community as a whole going forward. And we're teaching them as kindergartners to summon demons, and we don't think we're going to have a problem when they're 12th graders?
Yeah. The thought
or when they go into the world?
Yeah. And the thought I had instantly is, if this did go through and every school in California is teaching this, how many parents would actually know this was being taught? I don't know, but it's a scary thought.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that is one blessing of COVID was that what the schools were teaching the kids, all of a sudden it was in parents' living rooms and they overheard it.
Yep.
And that's how critical race theory got, exposed so prominently. And now everybody knows what's going on.
Yeah, that's true. It's a huge opportunity, I believe, even though it's nonsense and craziness. It's a huge opportunity to voice your opinion and to say, this is the truth. Yeah. This is what it is.
Yep. Oh, well, that was some fun topics today, guys.
Rapid fire news, rapid fire craziness going on all around the world.
That's going on. It is, man, I'll tell you what, but we're going to, we'll be back with more next week. Make sure you just, keep commenting on the videos, keep communicating, because we'll be in there talking with you guys. Everybody else who's commenting, you kind of have conversations back and forth. We will have a new community where everybody can gather coming soon. Mm-hmm. I'll just kind of put that out there now, but we'll talk more about that in the coming weeks. We're wrap it all up with that. Rob, do you want to do the insider number one more time?
Become an insider with AGA Network. You can text AGA to 330-619-4497. We'd love to have you be a part of our insiders. And as that new platform gets launched for us, we'd love to be able to send you direct messages to get you to that platform so that we can connect with you even further. So, hey, thanks for joining us and watching what we're doing.